I want to give a huge shout out to a YouTube channel that is pretty much devoted to strictly videos and matters on the Ball family because I got the inspiration for this content from him. Shout out to my man DKM. Make sure you check him out. I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description down below. And the reason why I'm providing you this piece of content is, well, that channel tends to speak about the Ball brothers a little bit more optimistically, whereas I don't want to say I'm necessarily negative. Rather, I'd like to say that I'm a little bit more realistic. Before we get to the content, guys, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. I am on the daily upload grind on 3 channels for you guys. And at the conclusion of this video, you're going to get an opportunity to watch my career simulation of LaMelo Ball on a brand new gaming channel. This is our best piece of content to date, and I feel like you guys would probably enjoy it. Now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? It's been about 4 years since Lonzo Mania has hit social media, and by far one of the most marketable basketball families in the history of the sport, the Ball brothers were introduced to us, starting with their oldest child, Lonzo, who was known to be a brilliant basketball player that was able to make jump shots from anywhere around the court aside from mid-range. Although he had a fairly funky-looking jumper, he was praised for his brilliant basketball IQ and his fundamental knowledge of the sport. Despite having a very loud and boisterous father, he was very quiet and to himself and seemed to be an ideal leader for an up-and-coming basketball team. Then you had the middle child, LiAngelo, the scoring machine, the one that could hit a shot from any part of the court and was already showing us that he was able to do so. The knock on LiAngelo, however, is we weren't able to define his true position. He played power forward in high school and small forward in high school, but he's a little bit too big to play that position in the NBA. As it stands, LiAngelo Ball is currently 22 years old, stands at 6'5", and weighs about 230 pounds. A very interesting weight distribution. To give you an idea of how interesting that is, D'Angelo Russell is 6'5", stands at 193 pounds, and plays the very same position as LiAngelo Ball, almost 40 pounds more than LiAngelo Ball. And then, of course, we have the youngest player, LaMelo Ball, the phenom of the family, and who LeVar Ball considers to be the best player out of all of them. And we have yet to see how his career will unwind, assuming you didn't see my career simulation on him on TheFlightMike TV, but his future appears to be very promising. He got drafted by the Charlotte Hornets, who is owned by arguably the greatest NBA player of all time. We're not getting into a GOAT debate on this channel. You guys could comment down below if you think that I said something that could tick you off about the fact that Michael Jordan might arguably be the greatest player of all time. But LaMelo Ball goes into a fairly intriguing situation, a team that has not even sniffed playoff success since its inception. Literally, the Charlotte Hornets have been at best, first-round playoff exit and are more notorious for overpaying average to above average small forward talent than for being competitive and winning NBA championships. Oh, and by the way, they did that again this year, signing Gordon Hayward to a 4-year, $120 million contract. Gordon Hayward is one of 3 players, by the way, that was able to sign 3 contracts that paid him at the very least $30 million a year. The other 2 players, LeBron James and Kevin Durant. That's some pretty elite company to be in, despite only making it to an all-star team once. But I digress. The question that remains here is, Lonzo Ball was able to make it to the NBA, LaMelo Ball was able to make it to the NBA. What went wrong for LiAngelo Ball? He officially declared for the NBA draft in the 2018 NBA season, and he has not been able to make it to the NBA as of today. Well, to understand why LiAngelo didn't make it, you have to understand where LiAngelo came from. After taking the high school basketball circuit by by storm during the 2015 season with a starting five that would feature LiAngelo and 4 future NBA lottery players in Onyeka Okongwu, LaMelo Ball, and Lonzo Ball. LiAngelo was leaned upon heavily for his ability to score. As a junior, LiAngelo would average 27.4 points per game, which would mean that he was the leading scorer on a team that finished 35-0 on the season. The year following, he would average 33.8 points per game as a senior, which was good enough to lead California in scoring. He would be named as a first-team All-State and an honorable mention All-American selection by Max Preps. This was good enough to have LiAngelo Ball ranked 3 stars by Rivals, 24/7 Sports, and ESPN, with ESPN grading him at a 79. The Ball brothers would all commit to UCLA, but that would kind of get messed up because of an infamous China incident. And I believe this is where things went wrong, because LiAngelo Ball and 2 other freshman teammates would get arrested in Hangzhou for allegedly stealing sunglasses from a Louis V store at a high-end shopping center near the team hotel. And the trio potentially faced a fine and 3 to 10 years in prison, but were released from custody as a result of a pardon by then-President Donald Trump. But LiAngelo Ball would get suspended indefinitely from the UCLA basketball program as a result of this. This is where a pivotal decision was made for LiAngelo that I believe absolutely decimated any possible chance that he had of making it onto an NBA roster. Because although he was suspended indefinitely, which I assume he was suspended and would be allowed to go back and play once things simmered down a little bit, bear in mind, his father literally appeared on CNN to discuss the matter and the fact that he won't thank Donald Trump for doing this favor for him. I feel like the reason why LeVar Ball did this was mainly to promote his brand. Most of the stuff he said on that interview had to do with the fact that he was promoting Big Baller Brand.
Tell Donald Trump to have a great Thanksgiving, because Big Baller is.
And being the opportunist and marketer that LeVar Ball was, it appeared as though he wasn't too concerned about the fact that his son was temporarily suspended from UCLA and told the media that he planned on withdrawing LiAngelo from UCLA. LaMelo Ball would follow. At that point, LiAngelo Ball and LaMelo Ball would go to Lithuania in 2018, which wasn't that big of a deal for LaMelo because technically he was supposed to be a senior at high school at the time, whereas this was LiAngelo's final opportunity to make a splash in terms of NBA scouts. But unfortunately, the Lithuanian league wasn't one that NBA scouts frequented very often, and they weren't going to come through to scout a player that was averaging 12.6 points and 2.7 rebounds per game, that would also shoot 41.5% from the three-point line, especially with a father like LeVar's. You see, at the time, LeVar Ball was viewed as a little bit of a pest because he made frequent appearances in the media, would criticize Lonzo's head coach fairly consistently, and with all due respect to Lonzo, he wasn't good enough to justify the media headache that came with his father. Following his stint in Lithuania, LiAngelo Ball would sign with the Los Angeles Ballers of his father's startup basketball association, the Junior Basketball Association, which was supposed to be a alternative to college basketball, but once again, there weren't any scouts that were going to come and watch LiAngelo absolutely decimate and dominate lesser competition, even though he was the league MVP. LiAngelo would go undrafted in the 2018 NBA draft and would sign a contract with the Oklahoma City Blue of the NBA G League as a practice player. And he's been there ever since March 9, 2020, but that was very close to the pandemic. They've only played 1 game since, and LiAngelo didn't get an opportunity to play in that game. And that's where we currently stand. LiAngelo Ball is pretty much in basketball league purgatory, where the G League hasn't really been playing many games, so he hasn't had an opportunity to showcase his skill set to professional NBA teams, which I guess you could say has been the thing that's been plaguing him his entire life. He hasn't had the proper opportunity to show teams how good he was. The competition he went up against has always been suspect, whether that was in Lithuania or in the JBA, or even getting an opportunity to play a single game in the NBA G League. So to summarize why LiAngelo Ball has not been signed by an NBA team in free agency yet, well, there's a plethora of reasons. The first one being a complete mismanagement of his career by his father thinking that he could go anywhere to showcase his talent, but that wasn't necessarily so. Whether it was in Lithuania, the JBA, or more recently the G League, no team team really took LiAngelo Ball's statistics and skills very seriously. His best opportunity to play against better competition to really show his skill set was probably in UCLA, and he didn't even get an opportunity to do so. The second reason I'd also say has to do with his father as well. The fact that ideally you could find good shooting elsewhere without having to deal with the baggage that is LeVar Ball. But I think that's a much more micro reason why LiAngelo hasn't been signed, because if there is a reason why LiAngelo could get signed, it would have to be because of Lonzo or LaMelo. You see, during the 2018 offseason, LiAngelo was also brought in to the Los Angeles Lakers practice facility for a tryout. This was back when the Lakers believed that Lonzo Ball was a part of their future. So as a result, whenever you have a franchise cornerstone's brother that is undervalued in the entire draft, chances are you're going to bring him in for a workout and potentially give him a spot on your team. Look at what's happening with the Antetokounmpo brothers. Thanasis Antetokounmpo plays with his brother on the Milwaukee Bucks, and Kostas Antetokounmpo was signed to the Los Angeles Lakers as a clear tampering attempt to lure his brother over. So the Lakers didn't necessarily offer LiAngelo Ball a contract because, well, Lonzo wasn't seen as that much of a focal point of their future, and that was the truth because he would end up getting traded for Anthony Davis. So the only way I could see LiAngelo making it to a NBA roster would be if LaMelo Ball was clearly the future of the Charlotte Hornets and they wanted to appease him. At that point, I could expect the Charlotte Hornets signing him to a two-way deal and having him either ride the end of the bench or developing in the G League. And honestly, that's probably the most likely scenario. I've seen the Hornets do much stupider things, such as signing Bismack Biyombo to a huge contract. Bear in mind, this was Bismack's second time playing with the Hornets. They already knew the type of player he was, but they overpaid for him anyway. Signing Nicholas Batum to a huge contract extension, and then more recently signing Gordon Hayward to a huge contract as well. Not to mention letting Kemba Walker go to overpay Terry Rozier. What I'm trying to say is, I think there's a chance LiAngelo could make it to the Hornets if LaMelo Ball is good enough. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? Aside from that, I'm your boy TheFlightMike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.